Hey, my tech friends, thanks for stopping by. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's continue to grow this channel. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey guys, since this is a project, I have to add the disclaimer here that if you follow this project and decide to modify your system in any way, shape, or form, this is 100% on you. I'll do my best to provide accurate information, but there's no way I could 100% know every implementation configuration that you would be running on your infrastructure. Thanks for the added and continued support. Hey guys, so I want to talk to you today about a possible project. Specifically, what I've been asked or tasked with or requested of through our channel is to create a ISO build of Windows XP with all of the security updates and configurations in place. Now, while I don't know that that's something that I'm willing to tackle, I am open to the possibility. Something that I don't know if it's possible yet is whether or not I can create a slipstream where I can import all of the updates from the WSUS system directly into Windows XP. Now, I've looked at nLite and I've looked at the later version. I didn't realize they were the same product, was the NT Lite application, which I do have the older version of the NT Lite, which supports the tail end of Windows XP and Point of Sale 2009. This is before it went to the paid version. It was still in beta, and it was after nLite really ended their project configuration for Windows 7 and 8. So that particular application I can use to slipstream the operating system and the config, but I don't know that I could use that to slipstream the WSUS files themselves into the config for Windows Update purpose. It might be something that I might be able to modify the WSUS offline installer and create a customized package to push those updates to your machine, but that's something that we would have to tackle later on in this project. So where I'd like to start with this particular project is creating a package for security that's not an ISO file. Specifically creating a process where you could grab specific files and run a script to implement the CIS benchmark policy configuration based on Windows 10 22H2. Now understand, when I say based on 22H2, I mean just that. It's based on 22H2, but it's not the 22H2 policy configuration for the CIS benchmark. I use that as the benchmark, or rather the baseline for the configuration, but how to modify it extensively in order to allow us to do the configuration to allow XP to function. So certain functionalities of security would have to be removed in order for Windows XP to function. And then additional securities had to be added in order for us to lock down Windows XP's limitations on patches and updates to secure the operating system. Now, you may be wondering why it is that I went from releasing 3 videos to 2 videos to 1 video and then sometimes 2 videos. And the reason why is because behind the scenes, I've been working on seeing if it would be possible for us to create a workgroup mode PC running Windows XP that would actually have the CIS benchmark configuration. Now, in our older configuration, it was really simple. We would have used the LGPO configuration tool, the MSI file, which would have been version 1 or 1.5, which supported Windows XP, and we could have just taken the CIS benchmark policy, recreated the policy configuration, exported it from the group policy system on the server, and then re-imported it with the application. But no matter where I look, I can't find the LGPO.MSI file anywhere. I can't find it on the archive sites. I can't find it in torrents. I can't find it in the old version site. I looked in all of the configs that I had going back for the past 20 years to see if any of the older systems that I had running still had that file on it. I can't find it. So I don't have any way to do an in-place implementation of group policy. So that left us with one option: scripting. So what I started to do is write out the batch configuration and registry policy configuration in order to add and remove and modify registry keys, as well as SDB configuration for database files, and then the actual template files themselves and the INIs that control it in Windows XP. And while I have it now working where we can import the configuration, my problem is that I don't have it working where we could migrate the configuration. In that, if we decide that later on in this project we want to add functions, configs, if somebody has an idea or wants to throw stuff in the comments and says, hey, could you add this or remove this because it's causing these issues, I want to have an open conversation or community in this channel where we can have a conversation about these settings changes, where I could build out these packages for you guys and provide you guys with the security changes required in order for you to function. We may have different tiers. We may have a tier 1 that says tier 1 gives you the functionality of the Windows XP with additional, some additional security. And then tier 3 is, hey, this is about as secure as Windows XP is going to get in this day and age. So, I mean, that's all possibility. But the thing is without the ability to migrate the policies after we implement them, we'll run into a situation where you would have to rebuild between every single policy change, which is just too much of a hassle, especially on Windows XP hardware. So where we sit right now is I'm in the process of writing the scripts to attempt to repair this particular system. And by repair, I mean currently our local policy configuration on this machine indicates that we do have details and data in here as far as config, like for xadmin. But you'll see that we don't have any policy configuration actually applied. And the reason why is because even though I was able to apply it, I couldn't revert the policy back to the default policy configuration on Windows XP. And when I attempted to do it by recreating the database files, I ran into a situation where we now have corruption in the operating system. So likely we're going to have to restart this particular system from scratch and then attempt to go through the policy configuration again to see if we could revert this system without causing these errors. So I might actually change our configuration in our VMware controller to not use persistent disking. So that way, we can make the changes, and if it bricks it, we could shut it off and turn it back on to reset it back to default so we don't have to do this over and over and over again. But currently, as it sits, we could see that we have the configuration, but we don't have the way to run the configuration through the database file. So that's the part where I'm at right now, where I'm starting to work on that piece. So where I am in our group policy configuration is slightly different. So far at this point, I've completed our custom RDP configuration, and I have our firewall configuration set correctly. I do have our Adobe Reader configuration set correctly for Adobe versions. I think version 5 through the current version will work fine with the configuration. I have a Chrome policy set using the current Chrome. So Chrome version 88 or newer will work fine as far as the policy configuration. If it's an older version, it won't be controlled by policy. I don't want to go through the process of having to re-import and change the ADML, ADMX files for different versioning. Unfortunately, that becomes a nightmare to maintain, especially in a project. So it's version 88 or better. And quite frankly, nothing supports Flash anymore anyway, so using 87 at this point is probably just a security risk more so than it is beneficial. So then I have the Firefox policy, which does work correctly. I have an Internet Explorer policy, which does work correctly. Now, the Internet Explorer policy was interesting because we had to re-import the template configuration controls for our Internet options going back to like IE6, which are different than the IE11 in Windows 11. So as a result, we have a montage of control and policy configuration in here. Now, keep in mind that while these policies exist, and I'm going to call them beta policies, there are additional functions stripped from these policy configuration that exist in the CIS for 22H2. Like for instance, there is no user access controls, or UAC doesn't exist in Windows XP, so that's stripped from these configurations. However, there's additional implementation configurations in here to try to secure the operating system based on holes and security risks found in our Nessus scans, when we scan the initial system in the vanilla mode with no Windows firewall. Since we don't have the ability to run updates past a certain point, the additional changes or securities that would need to be fixed to fix holes in the operating system, we're going to use group policy to fill those holes. So where does that leave us? So that leaves us at the beginning of a project. Now, I'm not saying that this won't eventually turn into an ISO file with possibly all of the updates applied, or that there won't be multiple packages available to actually secure the system that I'll do my best to maintain over time. But where we sit currently is I need a name. Now, I don't know if the name that we see on the screen here works for you guys. If it doesn't, let me know a name. What would you name this project? An XP system that's designed specifically for security and security purposes for the future. Leave a comment down below. I'd really love to hear some feedback on what you guys think a good name would be. Also, leave a comment down below if you've heard of this name before, because maybe because I'm old, I just saw it somewhere and I was like, hey, that's a cool name. But I don't know if that's the case. If you think the name sucks, leave a comment on that too. I mean, listen, we all have opinions. So, opinions are like, a-holes. Everybody has one. So definitely leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Also, let me know about the project. Are you guys interested in something like this? I mean, is there any usability for this anymore? Do you guys have a use case for this? Or do you guys see this as pointless? And if it's pointless, then obviously we'll just kick back and continue our homebrew configurations and go through our security processes and look at applications and stuff for older applications, older operating systems, as well as new stuff. But if you guys think that this would be helpful, or you guys think that there's a market for this where somebody can actually use this still, let me know that too. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around.